like to call the board meeting to order. We are, it's 6:30. I'll immediately take a motion to go into executive session to discuss facilities.
So moved.
Second.
I need
Kristen and then Kristen.
yes.
Joe. Oh, whatever.
No. Whoever.
More Chris. So I need a roll call vote to enter executive session because discussing an open session would be not detrimental to our position.
I agree.
Aye.
All right, yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. We will be returning to open session at around 7:15-ish. And I'm going to invite Ellen, Mike Duraki, Lisa, and Liana, and our broker to the executive session. Did I get everybody?
Is Nick coming? Yeah.
And any of the board members who are,
We're good.
obviously board members are, will be, and any board members that are able to attend. Welcome back to our meeting. I'm reconvening an open session. It's 7:35. And this meeting is being videotaped. We have no public comments. So we'll proceed to the scheduled votes for tonight's meeting. The first one is to approve the minutes. So take a moment to review and comment on the minutes. Look for motion to approve the minutes, or first comments on the minutes. We have a motion to approve from Maura.
Second.
Second from Liz. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Abstain.
I have to
Chris?
abstain also.
Chris and Jean have abstained. Motion passes. Second vote for discussion and vote for this evening's meeting is for the executive director's goals for the 2019-2020 school year. This was reviewed in the governance committee, and the governance committee is bringing this forward for discussion and approval. Jill, did you want to talk a little bit about this, the executive decision? Yeah. The executive director goals, or would you like me to?
I was actually thinking Ellen was going to, but you can.
Well,
Why
as
don't you
part of
start?
my ED report, I have just a big picture summary of what some of those goals are. Did you want to go through them one at a time, or just
I don't, if you
as some
could
main focus?
sort of, I think if you could just provide an overview, and then I would suggest that we do discussion by section.
Okay, so operational effectiveness. We talked about the the management of the facilities task force in relation to the purchase or lease of property. and about the continued building of trust and respect in the community, improvement of communication, continued improvement of communication between the different teams within the school, continued collaborative leadership, and communication with all with all the stakeholders. And the stabilization of special education department, the retention of 90% of faculty. I will say that we only had 4 teachers that left from last year, so we've had orientation today, and we have 4 new teachers and 1 school counselor that have joined us staff. So that was very exciting. Also, the creation of a non-teaching staff evaluation tool, which has never been in place here at AMSA. So all staff will be evaluated, and we've already had training on that. The tool has been created, and we've had our first meeting to go over that. And then also looking at the budget in a more strategic way. And Leon and I have already started meeting to talk about that, and also the successful negotiation of the collaborative bargaining agreement, which will be happening this year for the new contract.
So,
Any
discussions or questions on the first section?
Second section is around student educational attainment, and these goals are pretty much in line with what has been done in previous years, and it aligns with our accountability plan with the Department of Education. So 98% of students in grades 9 through 12 advanced and proficient on the MCAS, math, science, and ELA, and then 85% of students taking at least 1 AP exam, 90% scoring at least a 3, 70% scoring at least a 4. Let's see, and also the continued development of new and interesting classes at AMSA for next year, and we will be working on that with the department chairs during the school year, and also the development of the new DEAS accountability plan for the 2020-25 charter term. And those are the student educational attainment sections.
Yeah, so A and B are strictly carryovers from the previous plan, and as Ellen described, as part of our plan. C is a new goal, or just raising it to a goal level, something the administration has been doing, and D is basically the reaction. You will not see the charter renewal in here as a goal, but it's sort of the real goal of that is once we do our charter renewal, we will have be crafting it. They will be crafting the plan as a result of that feedback for what our next 5-year goal is. So that's how those 4 goals
Once we're
evolved.
reviewed, we have to create this
So,
document.
my comment is, I mean, for me, student educational attainment is almost everything. And I'd make it at least above any of the other items. We have it at 30%. I don't know, I'd suggest 50, cut back organizational effectiveness to 20 and external to 20. I mean, the whole point here is student educational achievement, right?
I think
These
the
are
other
the same
ones,
percentages that have been used for the last couple of years, Jean. So we kept that the same.
Well, then maybe then we should take another look at that.
I mean, I know what you're saying, Jean, and I mean, obviously that is what we're all in the business of doing, but just Ellen's specific role in that, she has so much more in her plate, and of all of the things that are delegated, the student, I mean, she's not in there doing the teaching, so 30% seems, it's like a third, that seems about, because no one else is doing that other stuff, do you know what I mean?
The department chairs, that's true. I mean, this is driven by the work that we do, that Mike and I do with the department chairs. And as Jess states, I'm not in the classroom. I'm doing observations. We're tracking students. I'm working with the department chairs to track students who need extra support.
I know, but, among other things, the board sends a message to the community, to the other teachers, to the parents, to the students. And what we're saying here is that educational attainment is no more important than organizational effectiveness and external relations. I mean, that's the message we're sending, and that doesn't seem to be the right message.
I think,
Ellen's role, though, PT.
Right. I think our message as the board, too, is that we also recognize, Alan, that like you said, your job is not necessarily in the classroom, but you're our fearless leader overall. And so in order to attain the educational achievement pieces, we have to have a very well-rounded, supported staff and a strong organization. In order to have a strong organization, we also need the fundraising component, the relationships in the community to sort of maintain and always improve our standing in the community. And so I think that is really encompassed here. I don't think personally that we're sending a message that says we don't focus on the education piece. I think our message is that we recognize the different pieces that really go into a strong educational institution like AMSA, and there are these different pieces.
Yeah, I second that, and I also, given the change this year, we want to make sure this is very prioritized, and it is, it's a high risk to the education and student success if this doesn't continue to grow and be better than it is, and be successful. So it would be a high risk item if we diverted any attention from that, I think, so it's very
And
important.
Jean, one thing we discussed in governance also is Anders is going to create a best practices for the AP teachers, so there can be a focus on AP, and Anders is going to develop that best practices so that the AP program is even stronger.
That's
Oh,
true,
that's
and
right.
we met with the department chairs on Tuesday and started that discussion.
Okay, I hear you. I still disagree, but okay.
Yeah.
Let the record show that I'm agreeing with Jean.
No.
It happens. But I do think that, we talk about the primacy of academic excellence, and so it should be primary in what the CEO is responsible for, because it's first. And whether it's what you want to do with the numbers, but I think it should be higher than others.
Well, we do only add up to 90 right now.
No, we've got 10%.
Oh, we have
10%.
Never mind. That's
If we're going to be academically excellent, I think we want to add up to 100.
I mean, we could make it 35%, but I agree with Mara and Kristen that these other areas help drive that. So without funding, we can't do more classes, so we can't further the education. So I think it's a very delicate balance, and if we wanted to say, fine, it should be 35%, it goes up top, and then we take 2.5% out of external relations and organizational effectiveness, but we could do something like that. So again, it shows that our top priority is the attainment, but it's not that much further above everything else, because we're talking about being well-rounded, and I think just people in general need to be well-rounded, because I think we all know at least one person who isn't, who's very good at one thing that they do, but pretty bad at a lot of other things. So I think really it all goes together, so you can't really judge one over the other, but I do understand the argument that the educational attainment should be number one, so we could kind of play with the numbers a little bit and say, all right, that is our biggest priority, but because of the reasons that we're discussing, the other ones are pretty right behind them.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with
Yeah,
that.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, well, how about this? Let's table this discussion of the percentage allocation at this point. Let's get through the end of the discussion and then come back to the allocation question.
Okay.
Is there anything else about the content of the student education attainment section?
Okay. All right, so the third section is external relations. And we've talked about this in that it's in 3 levels, is the way we're visualizing this. And so you've got your top level, which is full partnership with the school. We have a couple companies we feel fall into that category now. And then, the second layer where maybe we've started to have an internship, or we've started to have some programming with those companies, and then those initial contacts on that bottom level. And so we've come up with 3 corporations on that top level, 7 in the mid-level, and 14, which would be new contacts for the year. And on the flip side, we want to make sure that we're still visible out in the community, and that we would have an AMSA representative at least 10 corporate or community events through the year. and also continue to explore relationships and opportunities with colleges and university, while also solidifying a relationship that we're working on with Lesley University currently. And so that is the end of that section.
So
Yes.
we talk,
How do we define the difference between initial, mid-level, and full levels of partnership?
We've had some conversations, and I think that's something for the development committee to look at too, in talking to Mark. You know, Roger and Mark and I have had some conversations together and individually with each of them for me. And I think that, you know, there are companies out there who have said, you know, like Thermo, that's a partnership company. That we're very involved with them. We've got students doing internships with them. You know, they've donated the microscope to us. So we're considering that's a top level.
What's the difference between that and the next level down?
well, so the next level down was thought to be companies, Synovian,
Who we're hoping to move.
who we'd like to move up further, but people who have
So what does Thermo have that Synovian doesn't?
Thermal gave us a $75,000,
$125,000
microscope.
So the dollar value of the gift is the determining factor
Well,
of the level of partnership?
Depth,
That's
it's,
one aspect of it. I
Yeah.
think based on the conversation we had, it's also the partnership that we've had with the internships, and knowing that they're a company that if we were looking for something or we were, you know, we needed something, they would be the first ones to call. It's sort of like that best friend versus the friend that you see, you know, once a year.
I think
So-
we also use language about the sort of continuous nature. So like a one-off would be like a beginning, and then there's like a step up, and then a
Which is a fine discussion for developing that, but I do think we need to have it defined. And not, you know, look into a situation, getting into an argument
When it comes to
months from now.
Yeah, I agree, it needs to be defined.
Yeah, which will make your job a lot easier.
I would
Yeah.
suggest maybe if you and Mark sit down and just define what those levels look like, and I would say call them bronze, silver, and gold, I mean, or whatever you want to call them, but just define what those look like. I don't think that they're as much critical for the goals, but it should be just in terms of the development overall. You just need to know what those look like.
Well, if you're gonna have 3 at each level, I mean, I think it does make a difference for the goals.
No, I meant just for her goal setting. I think that we could take it to the next step if she and Mark were to sit down over the course of the next month or two and
Oh, yeah, so-
identify what those
yeah.
are. I'm saying we don't try to have them identified for tonight.
That's correct, I agree.
Yes.
I agree.
yeah, I concur.
Okay, and then there's the professional development section. I am already registered to participate in a program through the Massachusetts Charter Public School Association. They have an ED peer networking group that they're putting together. There's about 10 or 12 charter school executive directors. They're going to be doing monthly PD. They have that's specific to EDs. I will have monthly telephone coaching, up to an hour per month, along with that, and they have other workshops and things. So it's going to be a great networking opportunity to meet those other charter schools leaders. I think that what they've done is they've done a lot of surveys with EDs and to find out why there's such a high burnout rate and high turnover rate. And so they're trying to support new executive directors. They had the first cohort last year. This will be the second cohort. So we have some involvement with the prior group also. And they've already been out to talk to me about it and look at the needs that I have in the school. So I'm very excited about that opportunity. The next one is I'm registered to attend the Harvard Extension School's Negotiation Skills 2-day PD in October. And then I will also be involved in the Massachusetts Schools Administrators Association. They have a program called Soul of Leadership. I did that for this entire last school year, and they're doing a Part 2 continuation of that too. Once again, more networking with school leaders, but it also is really ways to best practices, support each other, not burn out, you know, just topics like that. We talk about all kinds of different PD to do with teachers, things that have worked well for other schools. So that's been a help this year, and so I wanted to continue with part 2 for that, which is a much lighter level, but still I think will be a nice resource. We've met once already just this week. So that's what I have right now. I plan on doing a spring PD over at Harvard in the spring too. They don't have out the agenda for that, but we've talked about different topics to look at once we see.
So
PDED.
So discussion on content of 3 and 4? Okay. Seeing none, I think the one open question that we've identified is the weighting for the 4 categories. And so I look to suggestions as to how to proceed with discussing.
I don't disagree with the comments that were made about Ellen's role in all of this, but I think the board needs to be visibly seen and heard as to what the board's priorities are. And upping this a little, I think, would make that statement.
35% student educational, number 1. Organizational, 30%. The organization has to be strong. The next thing would be the external relations at 25%, and then 10% DED.
Like he said.
I sounded pretty close to a motion.
Yep.
Yes, yes, it did.
That sounds good.
Hold
Okay.
on.
Nick, can you give me that one more time?
35.
So 35.
35.
And basically subtracting 5 off of the external relations and adding it to student attainment.
Okay, and so keeping organizational effectiveness at 30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the 10, okay. I can change that.
And then
this
also
guy-
move number 2 to
Yeah.
number 1.
Yeah, swapping 1 and 2 in the,
And that's just optics, I don't think it's anything more right now.
No, that works.
You know, it is optics, but I
No,
think
it's-
optics are important.
Optics matter, I agree.
optics matter.
Perception is reality.
Yes. Other discussion? Like to take a motion?
So where do we record that, so that's, these levels to be defined by Ellen?
Yeah, I'm
Yes.
writing
Right.
that note right now.
I think that would be, yeah. So,
Can you just make a note of that, Sarah?
I did.
That's
Put it on our
perfect.
task.
Thank you.
yeah, so that's a task for
Yep, no.
Ellen and Mark to define those categories.
So the motion would be to approve these as amended, per Nick's suggestion, pending definition of the levels of corporate engagement by Ellen and Mark.
Clarification, if it has a pending in it, then we can't approve it.
Oh, well,
Then we wouldn't be able to approve it. So if you were to reword it in some way to say,
To include the definition?
to include a definition provided by Ellen and Mark.
okay. Done.
Do you want a deadline? By October 1st?
There you go.
There you go. Discussion? Second? I have a motion from Chris.
Second.
Liz, second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Any other votes that I should be aware of that I'm missing? All right. Executive Director's Report. Ellen?
Okay, well, hope everyone had a wonderful summer. Here we go. Oh, I need the mic. I need the mic. Okay, Got it? All right, well, we've had a wonderful last couple days with our teachers. So on Tuesday, we had, as I mentioned, our 4 new teachers, 1 new school counselor, new special education director, and new dean that joined us for our new staff orientation day. That was very, very successful. We've never had such a small group. It almost felt a little lonely. We had everyone just at one table, and we just kind of chatting back and forth and getting them ready. And then yesterday, it was just wonderful and joyous to welcome back our staff and to get to see everyone again and catch up. We've been looking at today, we spent time talking about cultural diversity. What does that mean in our own families and our own lives, because we bring all of that into our community each and every day. Yesterday, and let's see, we did, Mike, help me. I'm so tired. I'm like the Walking Dead.
Prioritize the thing, the value.
Oh gosh, we did the Keystone. So this was a wonderful thing. I'm sorry, it just kind of shows you how where my head is at the moment. We've talked a lot about the fact that, it appears that there's been 2 camps at AMSA, the academic camp, the whole child camp. So Brianna and Mike Naraki put together, Brianna Murphy, our vice principal, and Mike put together a wonderful program where they had the teachers prioritize some words and things like there was rigor, there was integrity, there was joy of learning, and there was a series of words, and they had to rank them on what was most important to them, what they felt that for their educational philosophy, what was most important. And then they got together in groups, and they talked about that. And I think it seemed that at the beginning, it might have been a conversation that people were on different sides, but when they started to define what the words meant to them, they started to see the commonality across the board. And then, so then the groups came together and they gave their top 3 responses. So they were able to come together and say, for our group, these were our top 3 priorities for educating children. And we put them on a sheet, and then just check marked how many times those same values were repeated through the different groups, and there was groups all through the whole room. And what it all came down to was that there were 3 very distinct answers that everyone agreed on, for the most part. And there were some other things that were there added in too, but overwhelmingly, there were 3, and I believe the first one, I might correct me if I'm wrong, but was joy of learning.
Yeah, love of learning.
Love of learning. And then the groups, we went around and they talked about over and over again, we thought at first we weren't really sure that we were talking about the same things, we had different opinions, but when we started defining the terms, we all realized we more or less meant the same thing. And it was a wonderful coming together of the community, and I really do feel like it was a step forward. And so this year, we're working on themes for professional development and conversations that the community's having, instead of having just kind of one-hit wonders addressing issues that we see come up. And one of our themes for the whole year will be this continued conversations around what we all see as educators, what inspires us, what we want to see in our classrooms, and continuing, so we called it Finding the Keystone, right? Finding that piece in the arch that holds all of us together. And what we found was that those 3 items, and I don't have them here because this all happened yesterday, but those 3 items are our keystone. Whether you're in a whole child arch, part of the arch, or you're in this side of the arch, the rigor academic side, what we really all found out was that it's the kids, it's the students that we really care about. It's having them to learn how to find the joy in learning and the love of being here, and of curiosity and academic excellence, and what drives them to be excellent, and the high expectations that we have here at AMSA. So it was wonderful to everyone. I walked away. I didn't hear anyone say anything that it was a realization, I think, for everyone that we really are on the same team, and that we really do have the same priorities. So it was a coming together. That was a wonderful experience. We also had the school lawyer came and talked to us about student records and privacy issues within education and school records. So that was exciting. So our board, my overview for tonight is just that. We welcomed back our teachers. It's been a wonderful 2 days. We'll be together again tomorrow. On Monday, we have 6th grade and 9th grade orientation and new students. And then on Tuesday, everyone comes back and we're ready to go. So my agenda then is I have some August thank yous to mention, some razzle dazzle summertime, charter renewal update, my ED focus, and then I give a little summary of the ED goals, which we now have gone through. So summer thank yous. I would be very remiss if I do not mention Sarah Snow and all the work that Sarah and the other administrators did to bring together the annual report and the charter renewal application. Both due August 1st, both extremely important, and both had data and parts of it that weren't even available until the summer. So Sarah put in endless hours, nights, days, weekends to pull this all together. So I will be forever grateful for all that hard work and her dedication to the school.
And I should tell you, I thought it was an excellent document. Really.
Yes, it was an excellent document. It was. And then, just a couple weeks later, we had a number of documents that were due for the charter renewal process too, and we were able to get all of that together before the teachers returned. Also want to, thank the facilities team, because Eric and Sean certainly have spent all summer tirelessly working to have the school ready for the first day of school, and things look great. And the IT department, we had the new server's been installed, yay! So we're all very excited about that. We thank all of you for your support, your vote on that. It was a huge undertaking by mostly by Joe DeMarco, who does all that work for us in the IT department, and he built some of those server and installed them by hand. So we're very excited, and so far so good. Everything's looking great. So Mike, next one. Okay, razzle dazzle. So we had some summer internships, and this was a program over at Raytheon. I just thought that you'd love to see the pictures of the kids. So this was August 14th. We had 11 sophomores that spent the day at Raytheon here in Marlborough. So this is one of those things where Raytheon is starting to move from an initial, like, can we please get our foot into Raytheon, into, oh, they've created a program for us, and now this went so well that they want to expand it next year, and now they're thinking of other things they can do with us. So that's where that's kind of going from that initial into that next level. And so these 11 sophomores, perfect age, right, because they're rising sophomores. They're really doing some career exploration at this point. They spent the day with engineers doing presentations, and they were in labs in the fields of engineering, of mechanical, software, hardware, and aeronautical. I heard they had wonderful feedback. Kids had a great time. Mark Vital spent the day with them over there, and in the black and red shirt, that's one of our paras, Brendan. And they had a great day. Next one. So Boston Scientific, this was a lot of fun, and Mark and I actually went over to this event. These two students, so these are two rising seniors. This is Soham Sandakari and Sumer Sani, and they went over and they spent 6 weeks. They were hired as employees at Boston Scientific. So they had to fill out all the paperwork, they had to have blood work done, the whole bit. They were given badges. They were employees there for 6 weeks. What an experience for these students. I got a chance to talk with them. I know both of these guys, and their families. Their families were just thrilled. They also participated in this summer program with a couple kids from Marlborough High School and Assabet. And at this presentation where they were presenting the work that they had done all summer long, I got an opportunity to obviously talk with the other administrators there from the other schools. So we're starting to do more and more with the other two high schools, which I think is a wonderful opportunity for our students, for their students to come together and learn from each other. And the kids, they really, really enjoy it. And so, more and more, are we seeing that collaborative feeling between the three schools that I think is so important. It's been so adversarial in the past, so this is such a great opportunity. But the best part about this was when the students talked about what they had walked away with from the 6 weeks. The gentleman there in the white shirt, he talked about, he wanted to go into a completely different field. He had always thought that he would go into business. So he's a rising senior, and he said, no, I've made a decision. I've really been lit up by this, and so now he's thinking about some type of environmental engineering and a couple other options. And so it's exciting what and they talked about what it felt like to work for a big company. And even all the services there, that they have a bank in there, and they have a masseuse that works there full time. And so those kinds of things were just really exciting for them to see and be a part of. I think we need one here. Go ahead, Mike. Okay, and then these are our Thermo Fisher students. So this is Olivia Decker's here in the back, and Leon Zotlo, that's Petra Zotlo's son, one of our teacher's sons, and this is Anish Padi. And they were, this is the third year that we've done internships with Thermo Fisher. I got a lovely email from Mike Glass, once again, thanking us and saying what a wonderful experience the kids had. So it was a super opportunity for them once again. Okay, so just a quick little charter renewal update. As I mentioned, they sent us a list of documents we needed to get to them by August 16th. We fulfilled that requirement. We have other deadlines along the way between now, and they're coming out November 1st. And we will be ready for that. We have been working on that now, getting ready for the actual visit. There's a third party that comes out and actually does it, and I've been in touch with them. So what's interesting, I think, about this process is, so we're a charter school now that's going into this renewal process without conditions, which is something that has never happened for AMSA before. So typically they would come out 3 or 4 days, and they would spend all day, 3 or 4 days. They're coming one day, just one day. That feels really good. They're specifically going to be looking at areas of weakness for us. We've had conditions on governance before. They're going to be looking at that. They're looking at leadership, and they're looking at student support services. And all the supporting documents that we needed to send to them were all around these 3 areas. We consulted them all along the way with the leadership change that we did in the spring, so they're very well aware of that. I think we have the right people in place. I could not be more thrilled with the team that we have in place, our administrative team right now. We spent a lot of time together this summer. The chemistry is great. Good people. Our new director of student services, Lynn Jarvis, comes to us with 30 years of experience from Groton-Dunstable Regional High School. She is going to be a compassionate but strong leader there. We're very, very excited about that. So I think we're going to be ready in that area. They'll be setting up interviews. You'll be getting connected through Sarah. She'll be setting those up. And you'll get more information on that coming up. We'll be working with the teachers. We've talked to them about it. They know the date, and we'll be working with them and holding PDs through the fall. In September, our regular meeting, October. We have some half-day PDs coming up in the fall, too. We'll have everybody ready for November 1st. All set, Mike? Okay, this is just a quick review of a couple slides that I had from June, excuse me. And I just, wanted to reiterate again that AMSA's mission and core values will always be the driving force behind everything we do and every decision we make. So when a decision comes up and we're not sure exactly what direction to take, we go back to our mission and our core values, and that's what guides us. Always keeping in mind that all students, all backgrounds, all abilities are the students that we serve here at AMSA. That we as a community, whether we're an adult, a student, we are expected to model integrity. We always strive for excellence in all things we do, and we foster our community. So I had separate slides for you all in June. This is just a quick summary for the big 3 goals. I presented these to the staff first thing yesterday morning. I think that it was met positively. Jess is nodding. We talked about, once again, it will always be our number one goal to continue to build trust and respect in this community. And it will always be, because I think it's through that we're able to do the kind of collaborative work that we do. Goal number 2 is around excellence. It's not only, I guess it's excellence in 2 areas that we're focusing on. Academics, that's the cornerstone of our school and our success. It is around our strong, excellent academics, our strong curricula, that that this school exists. It's our wonderful teachers, it's our department chairs, but it is the cornerstone of AMSA and of our success. We will continue to strive for excellence in that area, continue to do everything we can to make this the best educational institution in the state. And then we want to talk about excellence as far as professional excellence, professional behavior, professional goals for each one of our adults here in the community. And so we're talking about raising the bar for all of us, for me, for Mike, for all the administrators, and for all our teachers. That means we get to work on time. That means we get to class on time. That means we post things on Plus Portal. It means a lot of things, and we're going to define those this year in work that Anders and I are going to do with the teachers in October, where we're going to talk about who are we, what does a professional at AMSA look like? And we're going to come up with our own definition of that, and then we're going to live by it. And that's coming up in October. The third goal is around communication. Communication that's based on respect and trust, communication with all stakeholders, whether it's our board, our parents, our students, our staff, our teachers, and with each other. Mike? Okay, and then just a quick highlight of those ED goals. These are just, high level, what am I pulling off there? The continuation of trust and respect, communication and transparency with all stakeholders, facilities. Also, budget and being more strategic about our budget and planning out for 5 years. The successful negotiation of our CBA, charter renewal and our accountability plan, outstanding teaching and academic performance, creation and the implementation of the non-teaching staff evaluation tool, stabilization of the special education department, corporate and community relationships, and that really isn't in any particular order except maybe what was on the top of my mind while I was typing it. So to sum it all up for this part of my ED report, I have the plan on the survey, which I will present later. At AMSA, we will be fulfilling our mission, modeling our core values and meeting our goals, building a community of trust, collaboration, and learning, striving for excellence in all that we do, and every student is challenged and supported at AMSA. No kid falls through the cracks. Go Eagles.
Thank you, Ellen. Questions for Ellen? Next up, we have the teacher representative report. Jess.
Yeah, I don't know that I have a lot to say. I'm sure you're all heartbroken. We're back to school. We came Wednesday. It's exciting to be back. It's a very, very busy time for teachers. One of the things I personally love as a teacher, I don't know if you get this feeling in industry, but there's a rhythm to the academic year that is supremely satisfying. And August is like our New Year's resolution time, and we're color coding and we're organizing and we're hanging posters, and it's very, you're at your freshest, and it's very exciting. So I always feel rejuvenated at the beginning of the year. It's been a good start to the year. Ellen already mentioned this, but this is the fewest new hires that we've started with. So, there's years that we've come back and there's 25 new people to learn and meet and get everybody. There's 4 new teachers. That feels good to people, even if we do have to sit through a lot of EpiPen training hours on horrible seats that are not made for old people's rear ends. But it's not good. I think that teachers are busy and excited, and we're looking forward to a good year. I don't have any sense of negative feeling from staff. As a matter of fact, before a board meeting, I always put out an email saying, what are your concerns? Fill out this form, it's anonymous. I literally had not a single response. There's not a lot of angst. So that's good. And that should be how you start a year.
Thanks, Jess. Parent report. Maura?
I actually got a couple of emails, so I was very excited. And I think some of them aren't necessarily board topics of discussion, but I think it's important just to have on record so that all parents can kind of get answers to the same questions. I did get a question from a new parent about the used uniform sales, which, just for the record, it's going to be at the first PTO meeting on September 24th, and that's typically in the lower school cafeteria.
Yes.
There was two other issues. One, a concern about the Maynard bus stop at Erickson's, and so, again, not sure. But I guess currently the bus pulls into the parking lot, which leaves kids up to their own devices crossing 117 to get to that bus stop, because the bus doesn't stop on 117. So if the bus were to stop on 117, then traffic would stop, and then kids could actually safely cross
Sure, so
117.
that's the regional bus people, so that's Liana, right?
Reached out to me as well, and I reached out to the bus company, but they haven't gotten back to me yet. I'll follow up with them.
Okay, awesome.
It sounds like that's under
Thank you.
control.
Okay, excellent, check, I like that. And then the last was a concern about the new schedule and how on the first day, I guess kids usually get their locker assignments if they've changed, and locker combinations during homeroom typically, but without a homeroom.
Mr. Rocky?
They'll be on first period, and their schedule will have their locker number on there, and their locker combinations should be available on Plus Portals for them as well. So in advance, they can look on their Plus Portal account, get their locker information. The locker number will be on their schedule. Combo, they'll have to look up, or their teacher can look it up for them the first day. First period teacher on the first day of school, so it won't be homeroom, but they understand that there's going to be pretty much a shortened period for students to ask questions, or, you know, if they have questions about their schedules, they'll probably go to the counselors, find out where their locker is, all that good stuff. There'll be some time there for that.
All right, awesome, thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Maura. Questions for Jess or Maura? Next up, Vision Task Force.
All right. So in your packet, and I guess on the website, is a version of our first draft of the AMSA Board Vision Task Force, which I would ask all board members to read and comment on, and get back to, I guess, me, and I'll share it with the other members. So we had a couple of meetings, but we should credit Jess for 99% of this content, all right, who, took...
I'm not taking credit for 99% because I cut and pasted from a lot of other people's works, but thank you.
That's true, that's true. But basically, this is Jess's document, and I thought it was terrific. And I guess the procedure would be for you guys to comment. I mean, if you have no comments, that's fine. Send me your comments, and I'll, get the task force to look at them and see whether or not it makes sense to put them in or not. Now, again, the idea is for the board to be able to present its view to the community so that people who want to come here can understand what it is we're about. For teachers to understand, what the limits are, what's going on. And the context is, while it is every board's vision to have successful, happy students, right? I mean, the reality is we have limited resources, and we should explain that and show what it is that we are focusing on so that we can be really good at that. So this attempts to do that, maybe well, maybe not. But if we get your feedback, that'd be terrific.
Due date.
Due date, prior to the next board meeting.
Yeah. So how about, I think this looks like a homework assignment for the board to send feedback to Jean a week before.
Send it to me and I'll send it to Sarah and Jess. Yeah.
The week,
If you can do it the next couple of weeks, that would be great.
Yeah. At least a week before the next board meeting.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So the idea with this is that, it gets sent to parents or it goes on a website?
Yeah, what's the
Two-
end result, I guess?
Yeah, I think that's a discussion for the next board meeting, along with the feedback, is to say, well, you know, did we get this? Did we get this right? What is the feedback? And then what is our plan? What is our plan to do with it, given that we have this document?
Yeah, in the
Does that make sense?
Yeah, in the task force, we were sort of operating under that this would be something on the website, that this is sort of a fleshing out of the mission statement and the values, the core values, and this is a way to kind of put those things in a little bit greater detail and context. I don't know if that answers your question there.
Yeah, I think so.
Sure.
To have the comments due back, would you prefer more than a week before the board meeting?
Oh, that, sure, but if it's shorter, then it'll just be the next board meeting where you'll get the comments together. I mean, this is, you know. So if I get comments and don't have time to incorporate it and discuss it with the other team members, then it will be the next board meeting that we do that.
Right. My thought was that at the next board meeting, we would schedule a time to discuss this document, because we've just received it. We haven't had time to.
We need a date to get the feedback back to Jean. So if we, in our homework assignment, actually specify a date. And I was just wondering if
3 weeks. Yeah, give me a week anyway.
Okay, so
all right.
It'll take me a week to get it, look at it, and then share it. Right.
So by 9/19, feedback to Jean, and discussion at the next, scheduling for discussion at the next board meeting. Thank you, Jean, and the Vision Task Force. I know that this was a tremendous labor to get to this point. Survey Task Force.
Okay, I have some notes from Raul if you want me to go over them, but we have met with Ellen. We went over all of the unredacted comments. We actually did some redactions. We looked at both the staff survey as well as the family survey. I will say that in looking at the comments, it was half and half. So I would say there were as many positive comments as there were sort of developmental, if you will. So overall, I think that it was, you know, there was a lot of good feedback. I think that one of the outcomes, and we just presented this to Ellen, and we talked about, she had already gone through a lot of it and had already come up with some ideas around how she wanted to deal with it. And certainly that was sort of what we said going in. You know, it's not our job to come up with a plan for the school. It's really just to go over what we found going through all of the survey and the comments. The Keystone Project is certainly one of those things that she is working on. Another one of the other areas, which I think has always been, always comes up in every survey, is the communication, and specifically around is Plus Portals the communication tool, is Google Classroom the communication tool. So that's just a big challenge, and the fact that the two don't speak to each other and some people prefer one over the other, it just becomes an issue. And I think it's probably more of an issue in the middle school than it is as much in the high school. Consistency was another topic, big topic, and mostly around enforcing different policies. So whether it was, I hate to say it, uniforms or homework policy, or just, different policies within the school. So making sure there's consistency there. Not a lot of the parents know what the board does, so that was another area. And I know, Mara, you're probably presenting at the first PTO meeting. Are you presenting?
I'll help you with that.
Okay. Yeah, we have.
Yes.
We have a presentation all ready to go. So, but what we talked about with Ellen was it might not be a bad idea, because you still only get a handful of parents at the PTO meeting. So maybe if we could sit down with Mike and have you do just a video, just an informal video of the presentation as well. So that hopefully we can get it out on the website and more parents will have the opportunity to, you know, just see and understand what the board does.
Sounds good.
There were, you know, we talked about maybe some best practices around homework. Homework is another area of contention for a lot of people. And then the final thing was the new alert system, which Ellen, you might be able to talk a little bit more about, but that was, I mean, security is always an issue at the school, so, and a concern of many parents. So they do have a new security system.
We do, and we'll be meeting to talk about, so it's a brand new system. I don't know a lot about it. It's been installed, and it has a great deal of capacity, and it does hook us straight to the Marlborough Police Department. And at this point, what the next step that we're working on, Eric, with, is to determine exactly what we want it to do, because it would literally like alert everyone if there was a big thunder and lightning storm coming. You know, everything from that to, you know, a real serious issue. And it also hooks up into the computer system, so even if your computer is off, but there was a serious issue in the school, it would flash up on your screen. And so it has many capabilities. We just need to determine at what level and what we want included and who should be included on those things. So we are meeting next week to review that.
And I just wanted to add, when we did meet with Ellen, we sort of got the feeling that the tone of these surveys was already being addressed by some of the goals. Some of the goals that Ellen had put into place. But so one of the big themes was communication. And then she said, well, we're going to specifically focus on plus portals this year. And so there was already like a plan in place before she even knew that was one of the main issues. And then another main issue was the Excellence for All and the 2 camps. And she had already planned the Keystone project. So even before she knew these were like 2 of the biggest issues.
Well, you know inside.
Yeah, she knew what it was. You know, so the survey results really didn't, you know, cause any change in things.
No,
It's just good to know that you're on the same.
It just validated what,
Yeah.
they validated what she was already working on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was good.
Thank you. I'm just going to turn my computer on. Go.
Can I ask, is there a sense when you said some of those things of which of those things were primarily staff issues and which were primarily parent or family concerns?
I break it down in my summary.
Oh, okay, you're going to do it a little bit more? Okay.
Questions for the task force?
I will say the number of responses was down from last year. The other thing that we kind of struggled with, and this was just, you know, in the overall percentages, the way that the survey is done is if someone answers neutral, it's taken as a negative. So given that last year's surveys were so positively high, if people were neutral this year, it comes out as negative. And unfortunately, that is just something that we're going to have to work with the survey company to see if we can, you know, figure out a way around that. But that was certainly another issue, you know, that we encountered trying to look at the surveys.
Thank you.
Yep.
Ellen. So the task that Ellen has been given was to, or the challenge you've been given is to now respond and provide us, well, actually clearly parts of the plan have already been in motion and without the surveys, but to summarize what the plan is going forward in reaction to the survey feedback.
Exactly. So that's what we did. We met. I'll start with some positive because positive is always nice. Some of the positive feedback we received on the family spring survey. Excuse me. It says, in the end, only one thing matters: the quality of the education. In this aspect, AMSA excels. Another one was extremely happy with the program overall. Another one, I love the diversity of the students and teachers at AMSA. And the last one, And these were just a few, there were many more. A-plus education, amazing staff and students, awesome administration, excellent opportunities. So we're very grateful for all those wonderful comments from our families. And as I said, that was really only just a couple. So I broke this down. This is from the family survey. And I picked out some of, Mike, if you kind of like, does it matter like if you move the computer, just like part of the first few letters here are.
That needs to be adjusted here, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, it needs to be adjusted there? Oh, that, well, yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. That's okay. So, yeah, I listed the family concerns on, and once again, these weren't in order necessarily. No? Okay, it's just the first letter, I guess. So yeah, these are not in any particular order at all. They just, as I was running through and making tick marks and things like that. So the first one was homework and work-life balance. It's something we hear all the time. It's a very big concern of ours. So this past spring in particular, we created an internal homework philosophy document. This was done based on some of the student survey results that we got back last fall. It was a document that was, we worked on with the department chairs, and then they worked on it with their departments. We took a lot of feedback, we came back, revised, and then created a one-page kind of philosophy on what our homework philosophy is. It's an internal document. It's been reviewed again. It went into everyone's packets this week when they came back. Just to be a reminder, we reviewed it again with the department chairs when we met with them on Tuesday. It's new, so this is the first year really that we're working on that. One of the pieces of that was the new 9th grade orientation, which we'll be having for the very first time on Monday. The next is teacher communication, the parents' concern about communicating with teachers. And I separated this out actually from the Updating Plus portals. Because there's other concerns too, answering emails, and either getting positive feedback about how their student is doing, that communication piece of, gee, Johnny's doing wonderful, or delays in getting information about concerns. So last year, we created the communications protocol. Once again, that was handed out to everyone again. We reviewed it again with the department chairs, who in turn will work with the teachers, and we'll continue to reinforce that during the August PD. And the chairs this year are going to use this as oversight too, to check in with their teachers, use it as part of the observation part. But this also falls into, when I talked about excellence in both academics and professionalism, this is a professionalism piece. When I talked about that with the department chairs, that I had a focus on excellent professionalism. It doesn't really work, but you know what I mean? They were delighted. Their faces lit up that we were going to focus on that piece. Because I think it's important for all of us to raise that bar, to take everything to the next level. We're out of crisis mode now. Now we have to bring everyone to the next level. And so that's part of the communication. We answer our emails, right? So with Plus Portal updating, once again, that is something we have seen every year. I do really believe that we are better with Plus Portals updating now and communication than I think we were 2 years ago. And I think that the communications document that is on the website has helped with that. I've had parents come to me and say, on the communications protocol, so parents are looking at it, and we're going to be focusing on that. So also, we're continuing to ask teachers to update the Plus Portals bi-weekly, and the department chairs will be working on the teachers, with the teachers to do that and supporting them if they need assistance in doing that. It's very easy to get overwhelmed with 50 papers. When you're a history teacher, an English teacher, and you're correcting those things, it's very easy to get behind. But we also understand the importance this is to the families and to the students to get timely feedback. So we do want to focus on that. The parents mentioned quality of teaching is seen as variable. They raved about so many of the teachers, and yet, they felt that there were some concerns in other areas too. So we did recently improve the hiring process this past spring, and we've always had a model lesson, for the new teachers, but now we have, we created a student survey. So after the teacher gives them all a lesson, we have all the kids do feedback forms. And it's a half sheet, it's short, but it's been very interesting and I think effective. We've hired amazing, these 4 new employees that we have that are going to be teaching, we were really very, very lucky to be able to attract such great talent. I'm very excited about them being here. And these people, we were able to hire in the spring. So none of this was last minute, and then, you know, it's harder. So I think we've really had some quality people.
If I can interrupt,
Yes.
at least one of the new teachers that I spoke to, and maybe it's more than, but they actually did the step-up day in May or in June.
Yes.
They were hired in time to meet their people. So, I mean, we've never done that. That's fabulous.
Yeah, it's awesome. That was one of the new math teachers.
Yeah.
And the parents talked a lot about technology in the classroom, and we're always purchasing new Chromebooks every year as we can afford them, for sure. We also got the new server recently, which I think is really going to help in our computer science classes. And we've started to purchase and install wireless projectors. Pretty soon this is going to be wireless here, which is really going to be helpful. We've also, you know, you saw the new technology, and that's wireless that we have in the conference room. So we are doing that. There were parents that asked about either issuing iPads or laptops or that to each student. That would be a huge conversation within our community, and I would want buy-in from our teachers that they felt that was something that was necessary. We have so many Chrome cards now. We have enough that teachers don't seem to be competing for them, especially with the new one I think we got in the White Building, and the new one that the school counselors are getting, that they've already gotten this year too. That we're just chipping away at it, and I think that the teachers have said that they don't ever feel like they can't get one when they need it. So we're doing well. We can always have more, but it would be a much larger conversation within the community to decide whether we wanted children to walk around with the iPads all day. I've seen that in other schools, and it hasn't felt like a good thing to me. I'd rather them be talking to each other. All right, and the last one is facilities. We're always worried about facilities, and of course they want more information. A year and a half ago, you know, we told them that we were minutes away from buying these buildings. I don't blame them. I want more information too, we all do. So, you know, as soon as we can get that information out, we certainly will share whatever we can. In the meantime, though, we have new walkways, and they look fantastic. All the floors have been waxed, there's been painting that's been done over the summer. You know, the HVAC system has been done, all cleaned up, and, you know, landscaping is still to be done. They're filling the potholes, so you can, as you drive out, yes, they were working out here at 7 o'clock. Yeah, they're still, so all those potholes are going to be filled in. So that's, I mean, those are miraculous things. So those are the different ways that the main items, and they did talk about security. I didn't add that to the list, Liz, and I'm sorry about that. And probably because in my mind, that's kind of check. It's just a matter of getting that system activated and getting everyone trained, which we'll be working on this fall. Okay, so this is a summary of the staff survey. One of the comments, obviously, that would mean the most to me is that the teachers want to see strong, visible leadership that has a clear plan. And the teachers deserve to have a strong leader, a visible leader with a clear plan. And so my focus, I talked about it today, was the focus on communication and transparency. We had, I really valued the time that I got to spend with the teachers yesterday morning talking about communication. I am a transparent person, and so I thought we had a good conversation yesterday to start that off. The administrative team has scheduled walkabouts through the day. And there are plans for everyone to be much more visible. If Ms. Murphy was here tonight, I think she would tell you, as one of our teachers, that she had no idea how much time in the day an administrator is actually in planned scheduled meetings. There's a lot of time that we are just in meetings, and so it's difficult to find that time, but we're gonna focus on that. We're gonna increase our time in the classrooms, increase our focus on lunch duties, intake, and dismissal. being present at those things. And I've also added monthly ED roundtables that I will be in this conference room for after school for an hour or so, the fourth Thursday of every month. And I talked to the staff about that yesterday. I will sit there as long as if nobody's there or if 100 people show up. But it's there so that I'm available for them. They'll always have access to me. I hope they all know they always have access to me, that they can come by any time and that we can talk about things. And I did talk to them about that and just who I am as a leader and what I want to be for them.
And the principal and vice principal are also going to do a monthly...
Yes, they are. The vice principal and the principal are also going to do a monthly...
roundtable.
Yep, roundtable to do operational student affairs type work, probably the second Wednesday of the month. So we want to be more available to the staff for whatever they need. I'm very committed and believe very strongly in service leadership. We aren't here to lead to be leaders. We're here to serve those that are here, that are doing the work with the students. Okay, the next one is the discipline inconsistencies. And this is an interesting one because, so we had 69 folks of about 130 actually fill out the survey. There was 3 or 4 comments, strong comments, that talked about discipline inconsistencies. And we were aware of this. One of the issues that we had was that, the last quarter of the year, we were down a dean. So we have hired a new full-time dean for the 6th to 8th grade. He started in June. He has 7 years at Sizer School as a dean of students with another 3 years as an assistant dean. So he's got 10 years of dean's experience. He was also at one point in his life a part-time police officer in Ashby. So he's very aware of the law. He was an excellent candidate, and we really welcome. His name is Anthony Montesian, and we welcome him to our community. He is a compassionate, a good person, and I think he's going to be great with our 6th to 8th grades. Middle school is his sweet spot, so we're excited to have him there and move Dan Amaral over here to the high school. And we have renewed energy to keep things tight from day one. We've had multiple meetings. I've been meeting with the team throughout the summer. We've spent hours and hours together talking about these types of issues and what we're going to do and have in place. So that's what we got going there. For increased communication within the department, so we've already started this. This year was the first time we had a department chair meeting before the teachers arrived. So the department chairs all came in on Tuesday. We spent an hour together. It was a great meeting. We had everything all organized and ready for them. Wanted to give them what the vision was before we discussed it with the teachers, get them on board and supportive, and they were very supportive. So we talked to them about best practices for interdepartment communication. There was quite a bit of feedback that the department chairs received on the survey. The department chairs also received a copy of the redacted survey yesterday, and so they read and heard that feedback. And a lot of the feedback was around they didn't feel that there was equal communication between, the differences between the departments and how it was handled, or that they didn't feel that there was effective communication within their department, or they felt intimidated maybe to talk to a department chair. So we had a discussion with the chairs about that, and one of the department chairs had come up with a new system. It was actually the science department chair last year that he used to have these mini meetings through the year, and he presented for the other department chairs to talk about how that worked and what it looked like, and I think that there'll be other departments that will use that. So that was great work. And each one of the department chairs will have one of the goals that they'll have with me this year will be around communication, what they've done within their departments to improve communication. And we've all talked about that and they've agreed to that. And then we'll continue to put communication plus portals. We meet weekly with the department chairs anyway. And so we will add a topic onto our agenda around communication and around
all the protocols, the homework philosophy and the plus portals, and making sure that we're checking in about that. The other one, of course, the staff is very concerned about facilities. You know, it's something that's on their minds all the time, of the insecurity of not really sure, you know, what is going to happen.
Every time we smell a gym person?
Yeah, you remember, I know the kids need to be able to change. So, you know, when they came back, they obviously saw the improvements that were made. I will also share the feedback with the facilities department. There was something about light bulbs. And, but, you know, they want to know where we're going. So, you know, I shared what I thought I could, which, as we know, isn't much, with them yesterday. So that's, what do we have next, Mike? Is there one more slide? Okay, thank you. All right, the other concerns, there was a lot of concerns from the staff about special education and the lack of stability that we've had in that. It's reason why it's one of my goals. It's one of my greatest concerns. And as I mentioned, we hired Lynn Jarvis, who has 30 years of special ed experience at Groton Dunstable. I've gotten a chance to work with Lynn quite a bit this summer. I think she's going to be fantastic. What we've always been looking for is someone who has all the people skills to navigate this department, but also has all the knowledge. And I think we've hit it this time. I think that she has the balance that we're looking for and that we need. Also, several times it was mentioned professional development around supporting unmotivated students. So we have a professional development day coming up on November 8th, when we have like workshops around, you know, they can pick which workshops they want to go to. And so we're going to ask our PD Avengers to create a workshop around supporting unmotivated students and how to help students who may not be as motivated to be here at AMSA to find the love and joy in learning and the desire to be excellent. And the last one is concerned about different educational philosophies, and that's one that we've started to address. But that's, once again, this is not a one-hit wonder. We're going to be talking about educational philosophies. We're going to be talking about oh gosh, I wish my brain would work a little better tonight. I'm sorry. The Keystones. Thank you, Jess. And we're going to be focusing on those things all year. So as I said, we've had the Finding the Keystone PD, the ongoing work with the Academic Excellence Group, the creation of the Integrity Group. I didn't put that in there, but we're creating a group. I'm working with Madhavi Marate on the beginnings of an integrity group that will be partnered with the Academic Excellence Group. Next year we'll have a community group that we're going to put together. So we have a group of individuals who are interested in each one of those topics and promoting our core values within the community. And how do we help our students and teach our students how to live those values, and all of us too. And this future PD planned based on the results from the August PD and whatever happens this week. And I think that's it. And we're raising the bar for everyone in our community. Any questions?
Thank you, Ellen. All right. Governance Committee update. Jill.
Okay, so with regard to board recruiting, we have 5 trustees in the interview process. We should be able to approve how many next?
Depends on collecting feedback, but at least one, and hopefully a couple.
So
things are looking very promising there.
So we still do have the board recruitment task force in place, correct? So
yeah.
They are still working maybe to possibly recruit one more trustee. But other than that, we're doing really well recruiting. So happy on that point. Let's see. We discussed the parent rep video, so next meeting, Roger will be doing the open meeting law presentation, which will be obviously taped, and then I think what we'll try to do is edit out that presentation and post that on the website. So that would be an option for your presentation if you did it at the PTO meeting. Just videotape that section and put it on, or you could do a separate video with Mike. So we were thinking that both of those presentations should be available online in some kind of video form. And then maybe next year, when we get our survey results back, some more parents might know what the board does. Let's see, and we discussed the board self-assessment. It fell off the grid this year. We did not do a board self-assessment this year. So we've confirmed in April of 2020, we're going to make sure we do the board self-assessment, which will be a good time because we'll have potentially 5 new board members. So by April, they will have something to assess. So we'll make sure we get that into the schedule in April of 2020. And then I think you all saw the email about boot camp. We've confirmed October 19th to be our boot camp date. And now I think Ellen's planning that with Chuck Gordon. So that's to come. And we've discussed this with Sarah specifically, and Roger agrees, but we're going to ask that all committees use Board on Track to record their meeting minutes. Everyone needs to start using Board on Track, not just Sarah and Roger. So everyone should get familiar with Board on Track, and then obviously the committee chairs need to put their minutes in Board on Track themselves. A lot of our meeting was spent going over Ellen's goals, so I think that's all I have. Anyone else?
I think that covers it.
Okay.
Thank you, Jill, for taking on the governance committee. It's very important. Kristen, Finance.
Finance. We met on Tuesday on schedule and reviewed the final, the practically final numbers for the year end. There's still obviously the audit and the final adjustments that have to go in for the in-kind, but they're in and out, so there's no financial impact to the numbers. So if we just focus on the middle column, that's where the full year's results are, and I'm going to direct everybody to the very bottom line to start. So the surplus that we have for the year is $512,000 versus a budget of $536,000, so we were just slightly under that number. 96%, but that's actually very good, and we had some positive things that helped keep us at that level. So on the revenue line, key items here, our tuition came in $56,000 less than our budget. I want everyone to keep in mind that when we set the budget, we had a 1% cushion built into that, so we still missed the budget, even though we thought originally we would have a higher revenue number. It's just to note that there is some volatility in the amount of money that we get. As we've noted over the last couple of months, we've seen it come up and down and up and down, and it's based on a lot of other factors that are outside of AMSA's control. And so it's an obvious area that we have to stay focused on and understand when the money's going to change and be really aware of the performance of the budget all year long and how we work. And Ellen and Leanna are, they're right on top of that, and they've really, since the last few months, been very focused on the numbers. So it's been, I'm sure they're going to keep doing that, and we've added some other goals for them to do so. The other very positive item that is a non-cash item that helps drive the profitability of the school results this year was the donation of the microscope, which was $125,000. It does show up as a grant. It's grossed up as a cash value as though we had bought the asset. We've talked about that previously. So it is a positive factor, and then we depreciate that asset over its useful life, and I think we have that in at 10 years. So it's 6 years? 10 years? 6 years now, yeah. We've gone back and forth on that one. Another positive aspect this year was student programs came in ahead of budget by $84,000, and we had some favorable attendance at related to the testing and the clubs and the prom this year, so that was good news. And so overall, income again came in at $200,000 higher than planned net with all of those adjustments that I just reviewed. As for spending, the key items, again, most of these we've discussed at other board meetings, so just to point them out as a refresher. The benefits budget was, we had more benefit costs than budget due to the increased rates and take rates of teachers, right? So that was $138,000 more than budget. And we had offset by some favorability in professional development. Everybody doesn't take that number, and that's trued up now for the rest of for everything that's come in. So that's good news. Some somewhat good news. Kind of bad the teachers aren't taking it, but we didn't go over in that one, so that's favorable. Supplies were over. There were some special ed one-time items that came through. The SOAR program was over. Food services was under budget. Again, that's based on some other fees that were changed within the budget. Nothing material really to speak about. Athletics were over budget. We had some additional costs associated with some team sports. One of the things that we discussed at the Finance Committee specifically to athletics is because it is such a significant line item in the budget, we're going to do reviews of the detail associated with athletics as soon as we know the results from each season's sports. So we can stay on top of that for the year and know where we are in case we start running over, or if we're significantly under, we'll know and be aware of that data. So that's going to be a new item that Ellen and Leanna work on for everybody. Transportation was in good shape. The other significant item that we have discussed previously as a group is the overage and the extra bills that we incurred for the taxes and the CAM associated with the building. So we did true that up. There was an open item that we did do research on for the water, and it turned out that it was certainly a legitimate bill, and so that's been taken care of. So that's all in. And nothing else really to speak of other than favorability in IT and legal, which was primarily due to budgeting for items that weren't necessarily coming through. Because sometimes you budget for something and then you don't incur the cost, which is always a fabulous thing. So again, bottom line, just under by $23,000. So do Leanna?
No, I was just asking Leanna about the water.
Okay. And so from a cash perspective, obviously a very important number. The ending cash balance for the year is $6,142,000, which was a net increase from the prior year of just about $1 million, due mostly to timing issues associated with some of the prepayments at the beginning of the year. Any questions?
I have a question. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Chris.
Professional development. So do we have an underutilization problem? Or do we have an over-budgeting problem?
Well, it was budgeted that way in the union agreement. So that's the figure that we offered to put aside.
So does it matter that it didn't get used? Only 63% of it got?
Well, it's interesting because professional developments, there's some free things out there. There's some things that are available online. There's some of the local things aren't that expensive, so someone may have done 3 or 4 or 5 days, but maybe it was $200 a piece. Some used the whole $1,500, and they went to a week-long conference. So it depends. It was $1,500 or 5 days, and so we just we didn't find it. Leanna does all I can think is evaluation, but an accounting of who used how much, and so we can take a look at that now that the summer's over, because a lot of it is prepaid maybe in June or April for July. We can kind of take a look at it.
I think part of I heard the explanation in finance was that from a financial perspective, we took a very conservative approach. We assumed that every single dollar that was available to spend would get spent, and that way we would not be surprised. So. So the fact that only 2/3 of it was used is not.
We need to take a look at what last year's number was too.
We might change our philosophy on how to budget that item or not, based on that feedback. I
If I can add a teacher's perspective on that, so as a teacher, I get a fixed amount to spend on PD, $1,500. So, but very few teachers are out there like, it's not like a gift card, like no one's out there like, how can I get this down to the last dime? So you look at a workshop that you're interested in, or, so, and you know, you get 1,500 and it was maybe only 900, like nobody's out there, okay, now how can I, you know, there's not like a way to go and like, all right, well, add a couple pens, you know, until you, so it's a little bit of both of
Quantity of professional development that was experienced.
Okay. Did you have a question?
I did have a question, and it's about depreciation, and I don't speak the world of finance, so this is really about educating me. So when we depreciate something, I remember when I was on the board, my last time, I remember the buses that we have the 2 white buses, and I remember them talking about, okay, we have to depreciate those each month. And so, do you do it over a period of time, and then what happens if you get to the end of the time? Like, so if it's over 5 years, and then do you get to the end of 5 years and say, now we buy new buses, or then is it like running out of your, like, is it running out of your car payment? I don't understand how that works.
Yeah, it's a great question. So a lot of times it's a tax-related item, right? So you take a deduction on the asset. You're not allowed to take the full expense on an asset up front when you buy it. They all have useful lives, and different assets have different useful lives. So car might be 3 to 5 years, but a building is 30 to 40 years, right? Because it's the estimated useful life of that asset. To your point though, once it's depreciated, it still will either have a residual value that you could then sell it for, and it's kind of attributable to a gain or loss if you were to sell the asset, or usually you don't have a residual value anymore in an asset. So like for a van, if it still works, you keep it for as long as you can, because then you never have to buy it or expense it, as long as you don't have to pay for repairs. You know, like for example, this year in the budget, they decided to purchase the Bobcat thing. It's not what it's called, but what is it?
The fancy logo.
Super cool with the logo on
The
it.
little driving thing, I don't know what you want to call it, a golf cart on steroids, but that was a purchase because the asset cost itself was significantly cheaper, because we'll have that for multiple years than paying for a third-party service to do the work of that asset. So we'll have that asset, it'll depreciate over 5 years, whatever it is, and then that expense will hit the P&L every year, and then at the end, we'll have the asset and we can either sell it and get the money back as a gain, or we'll just, keep using it. So it is an accounting thing, but it's more, instead of taking the deduction now, you take it over time.
So when you get to the end, you don't say, okay, we're at the 10 years of the van, now we put in the budget for new vans?
No, not if you don't have to, but if you have to, you do. Yeah, nope. It's disconnected.
Thanks.
But we do watch that, right? So the computer system is a good example, right? The computer system was past its life, if we understand it correctly, right? You would know better maybe than most people. And so we invested, I want to say, for all of that stuff this year, over $700,000 out of the school's cash reserves for them. So, when you have to, you do. 200?
The server was 197, I thought.
The total CapEx is like 700 this year.
But it wasn't,
everything.
that wasn't just.
That wasn't just for that, right? That included the fancy Bobcat.
That included the roof and all that.
And the roof and everything, yeah.
So it's, if I'm getting this right, it's an indicator that the useful life of this is coming close. So as things get to zero, we should be looking to see, well, is the computer system, it's an indicator that we should evaluate whether we need to replace it or not.
Yes, and to get into the long, detailed, management of your fixed assets, a lot of things that happen with organizations that have been around for a while is they'll have a fixed asset on the books that the school may not have anymore. So we also want to make sure that we're managing that list of assets, because it just helps us understand what our total values are and what we have and what we don't have, and we don't want to overstate that value either, right? So, yep, that's fixed assets in a nutshell. Any other questions? So next time around, we'll look at July and potentially look at the monthly view of the business as well. I think we'll have that, so we can share that with everybody. I think that'll be useful.
I do have a comment. I don't know if you agree with me or not, but the bottom line is an awfully small number.
The budget for this year coming up, or this year?
Any of these numbers on the bottom line.
At the $500,000.
They're not big numbers as compared to revenues, and our revenues we can't really predict very well, as we've seen, right?
Within a range.
Yeah, so, I mean, as the board considers expenses, I think it's good to keep in mind, that we've maxed out these line items, and there's not a lot of room for other expenses, is the moral of the story of the big picture here.
Yep, and to point that out, and Jean makes, a very good point. We have limited resources as an institution, right? With the exception of when we get windfalls or additional money from our grants and donations, which are one-time revenue items, right? So you can't rely on them to run the operations of the business because you can't guarantee you're going to get that money every year, right? After a certain amount of time, you'll have a run rate experience of donations that come in, like we do in the budget. We have a certain amount we expect, and we hit or don't hit each year. And if we look at that one with the microscope, and even without the microscope, we were still over budget on that with some of the other grants that are in there, which is good, right? You establish that steady state, and you tend to get that in, not without effort and work from everybody, of course, right? But as we move forward, the more important thing to consider, and this is something we've talked about in the facilities meetings and we've talked about it in the finance committee meetings, if the school buys a building as opposed to leasing one, anything that breaks is on the school's budget and financial responsibility, not the landlord anymore. So in the budget, we said there's a new roof, right, for next door, which is $150,000. That's coming out of cash reserves. That's not coming out of operating income, to Jean's point. And we have $6 million on the books now, right? And we have one asset next door, which is the white building, and we lease this building. So this is what the go-forward focus of the Finance Committee and Ellen and Leanna is going to be, as we saw in the goals, is a long-term plan, 3 to 5 years, so that we can always be looking forward and understanding what the impact of today's actions have on the future financials of the school. Because in the end, it's 964 kids, and that tuition that comes in plus or minus 5% from the districts is funding everything that you see. So to get one new teacher from this point forward, there's not necessarily easy path to seeing that. The budget surplus for this coming year, I think, was $182,000 after all the adjustments so far, without looking at what the new estimates are on the revenue. So that's only $182,000. You guys know what the numbers are. So what does that really mean in terms of flexibility, right? When you think about the expenses that you take that are forever, like a new teacher or a salary increase or anything that keeps on giving as opposed to a one-time roof, right? That's a one-time thing. Or if you have to purchase a computer, that's a one-time thing, possibly. Although we seem to keep needing computers because they don't last as long as they should, frankly. We have to consider that now from a finance committee and an administration's perspective, so that we're always very guarded as to what that surplus is going to be. And DEAS requires that we keep 3 to 4 months of operating cash flow on the books at all times, which is why we're going to look at the monthly statements going forward. This one's a little bit convoluted because it's got some funky accounting associated with the end of the year. But if you take that out, I mean, it means we have to have $4 million of cash surplus all the time. So we've got the $6 million you take out $700,000 of CapEx this year in total, you've chunked that down quite a big step, and you're getting very close to that minimum amount of cash that you need to retain. So.
Thank you.
Does that help? And
yes, perfect.
Express really what
yes, thank you.
When we see this doesn't include like the development capital campaign, like that fund, is that separate money, or is that wrapped in here too?
If there were a development capital campaign and we were targeting $1 million and we were collecting that, that would be specifically identified funds that we would hold in reserve for that particular project. This is generally, and so for example, we had some grants for special ed, is that what we had?
It was school counseling.
School counseling, right? So those grants have to be used for the school counseling project. So when that happens, the school has to maintain and use those funds for that specific purpose, much like a capital campaign. If it's a generic campaign, they can use it for the regular operations of the school, generally speaking.
I think I don't know if that answered your question, Jess. There is no separate bank account that's not listed here in our cash. We do not have currently a capital fund.
So the thermometer that's on the window, that's just
under donations.
That's right here under donations. grants and donations.
That's the level of finance thought I had. I saw a big thermometer on the window.
So that would be a donation of a thing, right, as opposed to, or for the thermometer on the window, I guess.
Well, no,
I don't know what
there's
that
a
is.
indicator.
Oh, that campaign calendar. Oh, I thought there was an actual thing, not the marker one. Yeah, okay. Sorry.
So it's grants and donations, parentheses, see thermometer on window.
Right. Oh, sorry, wait, yeah.
Thanks for helping me.
Great questions, actually. All questions are excellent questions.
Well, sometimes there's like a,
Specific.
Yeah.
that is, yeah, okay.
Liz, Education Committee.
Education committee, there is no update because we have not met, but we are looking for new members, and we will be putting a communication out to all parents to see if we can get some new members to join for this year. We lost one of our members. He resigned at the end of last year, so we definitely would like to add a few members to the education committee, and we would also like to hopefully include a new member from the board if possible as well. That's it.
Great. Thank you. Update from the Development Committee. We are save the date. We are planning the boot camp for October 19th. We're currently looking at 9 to 3-ish time frame for that. More news next meeting. And they're also going to, in the September Development Committee meeting, we are going to do some more brainstorming on ideas for development, as well as review the parent letter to the community at that meeting.
Can I update you on the parent letter issue?
Sure.
Okay, so after several versions of this letter, I kept coming to the conclusion that from the parent to the community, it was one of the, it was similar to the last letter I wrote. We really got no response regarding board members. So I was thinking about how it was just going to be a one and done. No one's really, I don't know. The way it was coming out, maybe that was part of the problem too. But then I had this idea that maybe, and it's a development committee issue, but if we sent a letter to the parents asking them to create their own parent development task force. So we asked for a parent that has connections to corporations. We asked for parents that have the time and ability to devote to development, or they have experience in development, or the parents that just have some extra time. But if we actually create a committee for them to join, and then they're they have to do something, and they could be like a task force or whatever of the development committee, but they could also have their own autonomy.
We had parents already committed, actually. When Rick Tagliaferri was working with us, with Mark, they actually met with a number of targeted families who all said, Heidi Benjamin was one of them, who all said that they would be more than happy to be, they called it the development, Chris.
I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, it was there's a group that's been identified, and they've already said that they're willing to participate, and Mark would have the list.
Yeah, I think we should, and then send a letter to the whole parent community, but it's more directed to join this group. I think we'd get a better response from that.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
I think they have a half a dozen names.
Okay, so I would work with Mark and the development committee.
Yes.
So it'd be an invitation from those 6 people.
Well,
join.
to get them activated, because when we thought we were going to kick off the capital campaign, but they're identified, they're on a list, and it would be to activate them, get them all in one room together, and then to ask people to join them.
Yeah, I think that would be more effective.
I think it would be great
We already
too.
have it started.
Yeah, as we kind of brainstorm in the next development committee meeting, too, different tasks or different, opportunities for development. It might be good to also sort of share with them, here are some of the things the development committee has identified. We'd love to have a body engaged.
And then let them run with their own ideas too.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a great pivot on that.
All right, good.
Thank you. And that's it. Questions for development? Chair business, task forces. I'm going to announce the founding of a boot camp planning task force, which is Ben Hamill, who is a prospective board member, Ellen, and myself. And the goal of that task force is to plan the board boot camp. So that should quickly show up and then be disbanded. Second, I'd like to thank the members of the survey task force, the current version, and I'd like to disband that task force at this point. And I expect that that task force will be reformed again in either the fall or the springtime to handle the fall and spring surveys.
Yep. And we will be back together soon because in October we'll have to do the planning for the.
Does it make sense to just keep the task force standing? Or
honestly,
would you?
Probably. I mean, because it's, you
Right.
can say we're disbanding, but we're just going to be together.
It's true.
Together.
If it's the same people, so.
Yeah. I mean, unless the group is going to change, but for now,
Okay.
we're going to be.
Okay, so since we're continuing, I think I will withdraw that.
Okay.
I will continue the survey task force, and if you wish to join the survey task force, please contact me, and I will add you to the group. And I'm presuming the existing members would like to continue.
Sure, why not?
Yeah, let's keep Raul on too.
Yes. Yeah, let's continue to lead.
He will continue to lead the task force.
So it's Liz, Raul, and Jill?
Yeah.
So that task force is continuing. The ED evaluation task force is completed its task, and I don't recall whether I disbanded it last meeting, but it is officially disbanded at this point. A new version will be reassembled in the springtime to do the task again. Thank the members of that task force. I think that was Liz, Pauline, and myself. And the Vision Task Force is continuing on. We are going to be reviewing the document and taking additional feedback. Are there other? Oh, and finally, I'm looking for volunteers for the board recruiting task force. Because Pauline has already left the board. Chris is retiring soon. And so I'm looking for a couple of board members to join the board recruiting task force. The good news on this is that once we get these series of candidates through, the task force itself will not be a heavy-duty task force, but there could be. Okay, so I have Jill.
You've got one maybe in the pipeline, so.
Yeah, we're
And there won't be
going to overflowing with people soon.
That's good.
It's
Come in,
fantastic.
swoop in at the last minute, take all the credit.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Good plan.
Seeking.
I will join.
What?
I will join.
Okay, great. So I have Jill.
Who is the recruiting task force?
Currently it is Jill and myself and Chris. And we're looking, maybe we'll try to recruit Raul. But,
Oh, I'll nominate him.
well, okay. So but if you're interested in joining the board recruiting task force, please contact me. Meeting wrap up. First, other business, anything that I've missed? Yes.
We're ahead of time, actually.
Was there a timekeeper?
No, I did not appoint a timekeeper, so we're about right on schedule, amazingly.
Yeah, we were, I'll tell you what it was, because I was kind of looking at it. We were way behind, then we got way caught up, then we got way behind again, and now we're caught up again. So well done, everybody.
So, other comments toward meeting effectiveness beyond appointing a timekeeper? Good. Agenda items for the September 26th meeting. So far I have Vision Task Force documentation discussion and OML presentation.
What was the second?
OML. So are there other special agenda items? All right. And survey of action items for anything that we have open. Sarah, do you have, or maybe we'll look at the, let's look at the previous minutes. So we have, one of the action items for the board is to review and comment on the board vision task force.
What's in the minutes?
Okay, Liz was invited.
Survey task force only directly to executive report.
Yeah, done. Vision task force, done. One other item for individual board members, encourage you to read the webpage and update your bios. I know that you need to transition the number of students that I have here at AMSA from two to one myself. So request that if you read your bio and contact Sarah with any updates to your bio on the board.
You can actually contact Mike Finkel directly.
Oh, did that go to Mike Finkel directly? Well, let's pick one. So
Let's go to Mike.
Mike.
Save Sarah from
I
emails.
sent
Yes.
one up like the next day, so.
Of course it was.
Nope.
So I just
You-
want to do a summary of the action items from this meeting.
Sure. Could you?
I have, I'll tell
The
you
o-
what I have.
Yeah, please. The only one that I recall is the vision review and comments on the vision task force. What else did I miss?
I have the OT to read and send feedback back, okay. That's the homework, that's about the vision task force. Is that what you just said?
Yes.
I had my work with Mark Vital due by
Yep.
October 1st.
Yes.
Oh, yes, that's an action.
So hearing none, closing items, I'd like to entertain a motion to go to the executive session to discuss purchase or acquisition of real estate and legal strategy.
So moved.
So Chris and Liz, and we will not return to normal session afterwards.
So moved to go back to executive session.
Yeah.
Yes. Need a roll call vote to enter executive session, starting with Kristen?
I'm here. Yes, I agree. Sorry. I'm just updating my calendar for my to-dos.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes, and we will be inviting Ellen and Liana and Mike to executive session. Meeting is closed. We'll start executive session at 9:30.
Absolutely.